July 4th, Independence Day, America's birthday. What does this day mean to you? Is it simply the anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence in 1776? Or are there deeper meanings when you think of this day? Americans gather and stand united to celebrate the birth of our nation. But there's more meaning than just the original founding of this nation. See, to me, the meaning that always crossed my mind on this day is all of the men and women that not only stood for liberty and freedom back in that era, but also every warrior that's worn the flag every day since. So not only do I think of those great original American heroes that fought in the Revolutionary War, I think about all of the heroes that have stood in the way of tyranny and fought for liberty for people all over the world. So on this day, July 4th, 2021, 245 years after the signing of the Declaration of Independence, I wanted to highlight one of my war heroes, a man that stood in the face of tyranny and wouldn't back down. This man's name is Jake McNeice, or Sergeant McNeice, a World War II paratrooper. So I hope you find this video informative about what it means to me when I think of the 4th of July.
They thought on Normandy that they would lose 50% of paratroopers. They didn't make any bones about it. They told us before we loaded on the planes on June the 5th to shake hands with the guy next to you and said, "You or him, one won't be alive when the sun comes up." We actually lost 70%. But when we jumped in at midnight, or a little before, on June the 5th, they hit the beaches the next morning from 7 to 8 o'clock on up through noon, with different units.
James Elbert Jake McNeice, born May 24, 1919, passed away on January 21st, 2013. Jake was a member of the U.S. Army paratroopers in World War II, as you heard him just explain. Flew in on June the 5th, right before D-Day. Sergeant McNeice was a member of the Filthy 13, an elite demolition unit whose exploits inspired the 1965 novel and the 1967 film, The Dirty Dozen.
The pilots that were taking us in the C-47s most of them had never made a night drop before. And they were a little skittish and this and that. And we hit terrific ground fire from the time we crossed the Canary and Jersey Islands. Well, we got lots of gunfire. Lots of planes were going down or burning up. And the pilots became confused. And they dropped us over a 50-mile area instead of an 8-mile area. But it worked out to our advantage because it scattered us over such a great area. They didn't know where to defeat us or how to attack us. So it worked out well on that. But D-Day for us was June the 5th. And the first prisoners that we took to question and interrogate and find out the things we wanted to know, one of the first things they'd say, "Why didn't you come in last night like you were supposed to?" Their intelligence knew exactly when we were coming and where we were coming and the units involved.
Sergeant McNeice is originally from Oklahoma and graduated high school at Ponca City in 1939. He then went on to road construction. After that, he went into the Pine Bluff Arsenal, where he gained experience with the use of explosives. So he had that experience when he entered the United States Army.
There's so much politically correct stuff now about what you should do and what you can't do. You kind of touched on it a little bit ago, but you talked about the atrocities and things. And would you just address that? Because I think that's really important for people to understand that.
The paratroop units had a terrible name with the world. They called us the Big Pocket Butchers, the battered bastards of Bastogne, and things like that. We did not take prisoners. When, as I was explaining to you all a minute ago, they had been occupied for 3.5 to 4 years. So you never knew what side the civilian was on. So everything that was between you and your objective, you eliminated it, whether it was women, children, or old men, or what it was. Because the success of you taking that objective that was assigned to you might mean saving the lives of 100 other paratroopers to your right or left because you were occupying what you were supposed to. I never saw an American unit. I saw individuals, a few of them, commit atrocities, but I never saw an American unit commit an atrocity of war under the official supervision of officers. We did not. We did not take prisoners. Paratroopers didn't. But we didn't for the simple reason that it's impossible. When you strike a group of crowds, and maybe 25 or 30 of them, you may kill 20 to 25 of them, and 5 of them will surrender. What are you going to do with them? You're behind lines. You're fighting guerrilla warfare. You're surrounded completely by Germans. You don't even have food for yourself. What are you going to feed those fighters? How are you going to get an hour's sleep if there is a lull? With 5 of those live krauts are waiting to holler and scream and divulge your position. So we did not take prisoners. We took them long enough to question and get any information, and we killed them. After a firefight and a battle, we would come back through there and we killed everyone that was wounded or hiding or playing dead. But this was necessary. It wasn't something. It wasn't our choice. It wasn't that we were any more ruthless than anyone else.
They were no more ruthless than anyone else. If it bothers you to hear the words of this great American hero, I apologize. Today we live in a politically correct society, and we don't often look back on history for the truth. But war is hell, and my words mean nothing compared to the great American heroes of the greatest generation, such as Sergeant McNeese. Sergeant McNeese enlisted for military service on September 1st, 1942. He was assigned to the demolition section of what was then the 506th Parachute Infantry Regiment. McNeese went on to make a total of 4 wartime combat jumps. The first as a part of the invasion of Normandy in 1944, and then in Operation Market Garden into the Netherlands, which was also featured in the book A Bridge Too Far, and the Siege of Bastogne, which was a part of the larger Battle of the Bulge. Mr. McNeese lived to be the ripe old age of 93 years old and spent many, many years after his service in the military educating the youth about the horrors of war. So as difficult as it may be to hear the words of this great American hero, I truly appreciate his honesty about what the warfighters went through. So today, July 4, 2021, I wanted to bring this video to all of you, not only as an American, but as a lover of freedom. Warriors from all over the world, from all free societies, have fought against tyranny and oppression. So to me, the 4th of July is not only a celebration of an historic event in the birth of America, it's also a celebration of freedom and liberty all over the world. Free societies have produced great warriors to go out and defend liberty.
Yes, sir.
What originally interested you in the paratroops?
You've heard of the great American aviator Wally Post, killed with Will Rogers from right over in this section of the country. He grew up in the same town I did. When I was a little kid, I saw him make several parachute jumps out of my father's cotton pad. And paratrooping always appealed to me. Parachuting did. And then when the war came along, I thought that would be the kind of war I would like to fight, because it's man-to-man, hand-to-hand. You know, you can be in an army unit, say an artillery unit or something like that, and you're sitting here in gun position firing, and they may kill you from 8 or 9 miles out, and you have no control over it. Or they may gash you if you get up next to the front lines. They may use chemical warfare on you. They can't do this to paratroopers because you're in with them. And it's just man-to-man, eyeball-to-eyeball fighting. And you can, if you determine that you think that you're as good a man physically as anyone else, why, it's a good way to fight a war.
Of course, the extra jump pay probably was a nice incentive
extra
too.
Jump pay is very good. Do you know what our salary was in 42? What we went in at? $21 a month. Mm-hmm. That was our pay when we went in. And of course, by being in parachute units, Why, that gave you an extra $50 a month. And then most of our time was in front lines or in combat, which gave you extra hazardous duty pay or something like that. We were making more money than most of the officers. We weren't using it very wisely. I had quite a bit of money nearly all my life, and I spent most of it on women and whiskey, and the rest of it I just squandered. People pretty well take their freedoms and liberties and privileges here for granted. They don't understand or know that 450,000 young men and women paid for it with their lives in World War II, and that there's 80,000 young American men and women that are MIAs or missing in action. They have no idea what happened to them. So I want to thank all of you, every one of you, for going ahead and keeping this in view of the public and giving them some idea of what they are enjoying and how it is being paid for at this present time. They had terrible weather. Storms arose. They intended to make the invasion on June the 5th, but due to weather conditions and all that, they had to delay it till June the 6th. Before they make a major invasion or mission of any kind, the officers will all get together with all the information that they can attain, and they'll look over the situation and see how much it's worth and how much it will cost, what the loss will be. And they arrive at what they contend to be or expect to be a reasonable estimated loss, acceptable loss. They thought on Normandy that they would lose 50% of paratroopers. They didn't make any bones about it. There's nothing to be ashamed about in war. War is hell just by the nature of it. You can make it a very enjoyable and fun thing with the right mindset. You have to take the idea and the attitude that there's no tomorrow, and you take advantage of every opportunity that you have to enjoy. And that way, you can get through it in pretty good shape. Okay, I know y'all got to get busy killing them crowds. Get with it.
Thank you,
Give him a hand.
Yeah.
People pretty well take their freedoms and liberties and privileges here for granted.